Good evening and welcome to Fox News Primetime. I'm Rachel Campos-Duffy. They called Barack Obama the deporter-in-chief, but his former VP, Joe Biden, is quickly cementing his legacy as the open borders president. Now, he's stopped border construction, he's taken the teeth out of ICE, and he's rolled out the red carpet for thousands of illegal immigrants rushing to our southern border. And it's not just conservatives concerned by his radical immigration agenda. Even some Democrats are starting to get nervous. Congressman Vicente Gonzalez of Texas saying, quote, "The way we're doing it right now is catastrophic, and it's a recipe for a disaster in the middle of a pandemic." What's got them so worried? Well, let's take a look at Biden's plan. It starts with a path to citizenship for more than 11 million illegal immigrants currently in this country. But he's not stopping there. His plan would provide amnesty to illegal immigrants who have already been deported by the Trump administration. That could be up to 900,000 people. Can we afford to do this? Well, millions of American citizens, including Hispanic Americans, are unemployed. The economy is still in shambles thanks to the pandemic. Is now the time to flood our job market with undocumented workers when our own people can't find work? Now, vaccines might help that situation. But guess what? They're going to illegal immigrants, too. ICE admitted just this week that some detainees are already being vaccinated against COVID-19, while vulnerable Americans wait. But why should we be surprised? Joe Biden has made it clear that his administration will not be putting America first. Joining me now is Dan Bongino, host of The Dan Bongino Show and a Fox News contributor. Dan, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It is just a pleasure and an honor to have you on tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to be here. You've been doing an amazing job, by the way. You're really kicking butt over there. I loved it. I've been watching no, I'm not kidding. I watch every night with rapt attention. You've been doing spectacular.
Well, thanks. Dan, we can talk about this all night, but we got to get back to this immigration policy because I don't understand why they're doing this in the middle of a pandemic when people have lost so much work. Why do you think they're doing it?
Well, because they're irrational. They're liberals. I mean, the whole essence of liberalism is, causing a forest fire nationally and never doing anything of substance ever. I mean, really, how do liberals wake up every morning and say, hey, I'm on the right side of this. I think we should just open the borders to the United States and not, let everybody come in for any reason. I mean, how is that fair to people who want through the legal citizenship process? But a couple points of this. How many times are we, the Republicans, right? Not us, but the establishment swampy Republicans, going to get fooled by this? They tried in the Reagan years after the Simpson-Mazzoli bill passed, where they said this. They made this promise, Rachel. You'll see this every time. And the audience, you need to be aware of this. They go, oh, listen, just give us amnesty for the 20 million people who entered the country illegally, and I promise you, we will do border security after that. This has already been tried. This is like the Lucy, Charlie Brown football thing. Like, how many times are we going to get worked by this? They're not going to secure the border, so forget that. But the second point is they're using emotion. I was debating Geraldo last night on Hannity show, and people use emotion in the immigration debate. It's a policy debate. It's not emotional. It's very simple. When they say things like, well, people work really hard when they're here and they deserve a path to citizenship. Okay, point taken. They probably do work hard, but so do Americans, number one. And secondly, Rachel, there is a path to citizenship. You know what it's called? It's called the path to citizenship. If you really want to get crazy, you can call it the citizenship path. Just because you chose not to do that and take the illegal route is not our fault. That's your fault for doing that.
Well, Dan, it's policy, but it's also politics. I was so fascinated that these Democrat congressmen, I think there's also some representatives from the Texas legislature along the southern border. Remember, this is that area where Trump unexpectedly did very well in the last election. Nobody thought that was going to happen. The GOP invested no money down there. What it tells me is that maybe they like the immigration policies. Maybe they didn't vote for it in 2016, but in 2020, they realized it was working and keeping the border safe.
Yeah, this is what did George W. Bush call it? The soft bigotry of low expectations. When voters, when politicians out there talk to Hispanic voters as if they're a monolithic block of people who can't think for themselves. I mean, is there anything more bigoted than talking to people? Seriously, talking to people like they're robots and idiots who can't process information, as if Hispanic voters' only concern ever, Rachel, only is illegal immigration. They don't think about anything else. They're not moms, they're not teachers, they're not, workers or in unions or whatever it may be. They're only concerned about illegal immigration. And that's an excellent point you just made. I want to highlight. When you look at the performance of Donald Trump in South Florida, heavily Hispanic South Florida, even in North Florida, in the Orlando area, which is populated by a large Puerto Rican population, he kicked butt. He slayed on the Texas border, which you just referenced. He did historically well because he said this: "You're welcome here. Come here. We love you. Everybody come here. Just do it the right way. It's not hard. Just follow the path to citizenship."
Did you hear, Dan, that Tom Perez actually said that it was the Russians that infiltrated Florida and somehow got these Hispanics in Florida who come from Venezuela and Cuba and everywhere to not like socialism? I mean, it's just you're absolutely right. They underestimate us. They think we're monolithic. They think that they can, tell us how to vote, and we don't have a brain.
Yeah, and Tom Perez, it's hard to take anything he says seriously. I mean, I'm familiar with him from my time up in Maryland. But, you're right, and they tried to block everybody in. What they tried to say is, no, Donald Trump just did well with the Cuban voters, because a lot of Cuban voters in South Florida, sadly, their families have experience with socialism. Donald Trump spoke out against socialism. But that's not what I just said. What you know, and what I just said is, he did well with Puerto Rican voters in the Orlando area, too, who they didn't grow up in a socialist country in Cuba. Right. I mean, you could debate big government policies in Puerto Rico, but it's clearly not socialism like in Cuba. And as you just said, on the Texas border,
unbelievable.
You had, first-generation immigrant families who were like, hey, I came here legally. I didn't sign up for this, for my town to be invaded by people who don't respect the law. I'm really sorry. You broke the law. We have laws here. It matters.
Right. And they care about the law. Remember, that's over 50% of the Border Patrol is Hispanic. So these are families that are very proud, Hispanic families, very proud of protecting our border, who are offended that people would think they are for illegal immigration or that they don't care about safety right where they live. So anyway, Dan, you always bring up such great points. I've been begging for you to come on my show all week, and you finally relented. So thanks so much for joining us today.
I'm not going to skip the opportunity to talk to the great Rachel Campos Duffy. You kidding? No, it's great being with you. Seriously, you're knocking it out of the park. Good job.
All right. Thanks, Dan. All right. Also